Hello, good evening, and welcome to Bookmakers TV YouTube channel. I'm Gav from the LFC Day Trippers. That is Liam Canning to my left, and as always, to my right is Jamie from Daily Hotspur. We're going to do 30 or 40 minutes, like we always do, but we're going to take some questions this week. So we are live, and we weren't last week. We are this week. We are live, and we're going to take some questions, and whoever is in the chat, you're very welcome. If you're in there and you want to ask some questions on, it could be Spurs, United, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, anything across the Premier League, go ahead and ask them. Ask as many as you like, and we'll try to answer as many as you like. But I'm going to start, Liam. I'm going to start with you. A question for you, because a win for Man United at the weekend. Casemiro gets sent off. Overall, deserved to win it.
100%, 100% deserved to win it. I think United should have been 3 or 4 up in the first half. Complete control, sort of exuding confidence in the team. Wasted a few chances, but overall, much better team. Got the second goal pretty early on in the second half, and then moment of madness out of nowhere. Really, sort of the whole team gets embroiled into this Anthony kerfuffle. I think what actually stemmed it. Anthony at the time when we were 2-0 up, Anthony tried to, I think, rainbow flick it over a player, and then the next tackle he gets pushed into the boardings. So I think that's sort of what stemmed the chaos. But for Casemiro, I thought it was harsh personally. But if you put your hands anywhere near a player's neck, you're always open that debate. Simple as that. So as a United fan, yes, I'm thinking it's a bit harsh, but if it was against my team, then you'd probably thinking, yeah, it was the right decision. But overall, I thought United actually did well. Yeah, lost to the clean sheet, and they scored pretty quickly after that. And you think, here we go. There's going to be another one on the cards here. But they actually held off really, really well. And I thought, Sabitzer got 15 minutes in a very sort of nervy and tense atmosphere at that point, and he's actually done really well to sort of slot into that midfield with Fred and just shore things up. And I thought Lisandro Martinez was just unbelievable. Again, I say that most weeks, but from where, first 2 games he gets criticised hugely to where he is now is just, wow, unbelievable. So overall, deserved 3 points. Thought they played well. Things to improve on, of course, but you take the 3 points and you run with it.
Jamie, I told you Spurs were going to beat City. They did beat City.
Yeah.
A real boost for Spurs, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. It's been really weird, actually, that since that Arsenal game, that felt like almost the lowest of lows. I mean, Arsenal beating us in our own stadium, emphatically beating us, their supporters chanting they're top of the league. That was a really low moment for Spurs. But then, we came out against Fulham in the following match. It was a Monday night, away at Fulham. It was a tough game. And we produced a really good performance, actually. And we went and got the win. And it was really strange because that felt almost like a corner turn for Spurs. It was a big, as I said, big statement to going away to Craven Cottage against an informed Fulham side, getting a win there on a Monday evening as well on TV. And then we go and win against Preston in the FA Cup. And I think that was obviously, a routine win, but to get through into the next round of the FA Cup was really important for us. And, and then we've gone and followed it up with a massive win against Manchester City. So it's been really strange couple of weeks for Spurs because it almost feels like we have started to turn a corner here. And I wouldn't maybe have said that just because of 3 results, but I thought the performance on the weekend against Man City was also really impressive. Last season when we made this late push for the top 4, we were playing some good football under Antonio Conte. Obviously, this year it's been very difficult to watch. It's not been great performances at all, and you can really criticise the way we have been playing. But I just thought we played really well on the weekend. We counted on them well. We defended perfectly when we needed to. I think we dealt with Erling Haaland really well. Obviously, Christian Romero did get sent off, but I think maybe the first challenge he made for the yellow card was a challenge that almost needed to be made because he kind of let Erling Haaland let him know that he was there, and that almost set the tone really for the rest of the game. And I said we just defended really well when we needed to. We hit them on the break. And it was, and obviously Harry Kane getting that goal as well. I think to have had that moment, Harry Kane breaking the record for Spurs and most Spurs goals ever against Man City to win it. Yeah, it was just a really special occasion, and yeah, it's obviously kind of difficult not to get too carried away after a result like that. But no, I do think there's genuine cause for optimism now at Spurs. It does feel maybe there is a corner has been turned, and I think there's lots to look forward to for the rest of the season for Spurs. So you've obviously got a round of 16 Champions League game against an AC Milan side who are struggling at the moment. You've got the FA Cup to look forward to as well, and then of course maybe this push to try and get back into the top four. So yeah, it's looking surprisingly good for Spurs at the moment, because it's been a tough season for Spurs, as I said, with some tricky performances. But no, that win at the weekend was really impressive performance. I was really pleased with that.
Couple of things in the chat, so I'll throw them out there. Sas Copoy who's a Liverpool fan, is very impressed with Liam's level-headed speaking about Manchester United. He thought he was going to go off as if it was a conspiracy against United that Casemiro was sent off, but that's genuine. When us three are talking, it doesn't go down that route. It's very honest, in fairness. Emmett reckons the Spurs didn't only beat City, they bashed them. That's what he felt as well. Look, there's loads. There's a few bits in the chat here with regards to City and stuff like that, right? But I'll put this one up first, just sticking on Spurs just quickly, Jamie, because it's for you.
I'm more than happy to stick on Spurs at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay. Edward Watchman says, Jamie, it feels a feel-good factor is back within the dressing room. And with Conte, do you believe that he is capable of turning these results and a bit of momentum? And another question in there was, do you feel players took a few more risks with Conte not there at the weekend?
Yeah, it's been really weird because Christian Stellini, our assistant, he's taken charge of 2 matches and he's won both of them. And it was, the last game he took charge was the win in Marseille. So, yeah, obviously that was really good for him. And the camaraderie in the dressing room after the game was really good. And you could see what it kind of meant to the players. They were all celebrating with Stellini and, really bigging him up. But look, obviously Conte's still obviously the main guy there. And I think they were obviously really pleased they could get the win for him. He's had a really difficult season, obviously losing friends. Obviously we saw Vetrone, a guy who he's worked with for most of his career, obviously pass away. Vialli as well, another very close friend and former teammate of his. And of course, we've seen him have this surgery recently where, it's obviously been a very, very difficult season for him personally. So I think the players would really, really wanted to kind of show up on the weekend for him. And I think that was a big thing. And, Ed says here, Edward says here on the screen, yeah, I think he can, because it reminds me a little bit like last season when Spurs, we were in a really difficult patch. I think we lost to Burnley. We had some very poor results, some very poor performances last season. Then we went away to Leeds and we kind of just produced this fantastic performance out of nowhere. And really we kind of looked like we turned a corner. And, that's kind of what Conte can do. He can go on these run of games where he can get a string of results and, is able to get where he wants to be. And, it looks at the moment like we have somehow turned a corner, because I say that I wouldn't usually get too carried away after a good couple of results. It was just the way we won on the weekend. It was almost like the peak Antonio Conte performances that we've seen.
It felt a bit like it's a 1-0 win, and Liverpool beat Man City 1-0 at Anfield earlier in the season. And I felt at that time that was a turning point for Liverpool. They went back to what Liverpool do. The crowd were amazing. The stadium was bouncing. They were in City's face. Jota played left side and just up and down all day. We actually missed a good chance and then took one. And it was just like, it felt like a real turning point. Now, it hasn't turned out that way, but I know where you're coming from with that, because it's the way, you nearly take more out of that than, say, beating them 3-0 and they don't kind of turn up. I think that's that's kind of what I felt when I seen that Spurs game at the weekend. Owen has a question here. It's directed towards you, Liam. And I like putting you on the spot over this, but he's going to as well. He says, Man United are more in a title race than City, in my opinion. What do you think?
Oh, God. I don't... As a United fan, of course, I want to see them in the title race. Of course I do. We're 3 points off City, and if they're in a title race, then technically we are as well, just by the fact of proximity towards them. But when you lay facts on the table, and that United are in a League Cup final, then the FA Cup, then the Europa League, 2 ties against Barcelona this month, and chasing the top 4 finish, or ideally the title with Arsenal and City, I don't see how our depth keeps up with the likes of Arsenal's and City's. And Arsenal's probably actually a similar level in terms of depth, if I'm being totally honest, but City's obviously off the chain with what they've got on the bench and so on. But, Casemiro's out for 3 games now. We're down to 2 senior midfielders, really, in Fred and Spitzer. That's just it's not good enough. Christian Eriksen's out injured, Scott McTominay's out injured, and Casemiro's out for 3 games. So I just think that will be our shortfall.
He gets 3 games for that.
Yeah, I got 3 games straight red, isn't it? Yeah. So missing.
Well, usually there's a straight red that can be done like there's enough time for a 1-game ban, or is that just that's violent conduct? Or
the second yellow, I think it's just
okay. So violent conduct 3 games.
You're right. I think you're right. There is one where if you do get a straight red for something, I can't remember the way it is, but I'm pretty sure.
I thought if you're last man and you pull someone back, it might
something
be
like that. You're right.
But
you are right.
Yeah, that's obviously violent conduct or whatever you want.
I'll jump in. I want to jump in on this one actually, because I know obviously that is a difficult question for Liam to ask, but I definitely agree with this comment on the screen. I do think that Man United have better title chances than Man City, which is obviously quite scary. I think it shows that Arsenal probably are going to start running away with it. But Manchester United, I think they're just a more settled team. They've got all those key parts of that team. They've got Varane at the back, obviously Casemiro when he's not grabbing people's necks. But obviously he's been fantastic this season. Have a player like that in your team is so key. You've got a guy in form like Rashford, and then of course Bruno as well. So I just think because they've got they're such a settled side now, United, and you can go through that team and pick that 11. But then you look at City, there's no kind of continuity at the moment in that team, and that's something I think that is absolutely killing them. I just think each week he's chopping and changing. He's going to new formations. He's chopping De Bruyne. He's chopping Diaz. There's no kind of real stalwart in that team, and I think that's why so many of these City performances are just all over the place, because they just don't have a settled team. And I think that's why I would actually have Man United ahead of Man City at the moment. I mean, look, Manchester City, they are that good and they've got those players, they've got the manager to kind of come back. But at the moment, they're just all over the place. And Guardiola is making... it's very difficult for me to sit here and question Pep Guardiola, obviously one of the greatest managers ever, but he's just making some very, very odd decisions at the moment. And I said the lack of continuity in that team and the lack of maybe like a real stalwart player in that team is why I feel like they are struggling at the moment, because you can't leave De Bruyne out. You can't leave Diaz out. I mean, Ruben Diaz is such a bizarre situation. He should be like the number 1 guy in that defence. I don't think the other guys that are playing at the moment are even playing that well. So just, bizarre from Man City at the moment. That's why I'd have Man United ahead of them, and I do agree with that comment.
I agree to a point. I think, Liam, you're spot on with probably the depth at United. Now, Kevin, the chat says, outside of the 5 subs, City don't have the depth that people are conditioned to think they do. But you look at their bench the other day and you're kind of going, it is it's still a ridiculous bench. Right, it can be called into question if they get a couple of injuries, but I thought De Bruyne come on the other day and looked so leggy. I think I keep saying it, push City into the middle of the park and Haaland's threat level drops massively. But again, out of all them 3 teams up there, City are the one that can literally just decide, fuck it, and I'm going for it. And, that they can reel off 12 wins in a row. Not a problem to them, because Tom Boland asked, knowing sanctions are coming, or maybe coming, will it motivate City to win the title, knowing it might be stripped off them? Look, we're going to have to get into the City stuff. Emma Kavanagh says Liam is where Liverpool fans were in 2013-14. And I know you're laughing at that, Liam. Afraid to dream. Let it go, Liam. Enjoy it, pal.
That's what a decade of misery does, though. It's a decade of just...
Yeah. You're afraid to overcommit yourself. It's like when Liverpool won the title in 1920. Like, genuinely, Liverpool won 27 of their first 28 games, right? And it took them until, I want to say like early January or mid-January, it might have been, at home to United, when they went about 19 points clear, to actually the stadium to commit to singing that they were going to win the league. Like, and that's what it does. No matter how big a club you are, no matter how successful you've been, when you haven't won something, and United are 10 years since the title, I think, is it? Even 10 years is a long time in this era of United. It's the longest time in this era of United in the last 30 years that they haven't won a title. And no matter how big and how successful or whatever you've seen over the last 30 or so years, it's like getting it over the line for the first time again. You know,
100%.
Liverpool have 19 titles, 6 European Cups. United have 20 league titles. But it's when there's a gap there, it always feels like the first one and getting over the line. And I completely understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to keep asking you every week until you admit it.
I've been a bit out of my depth here in this.
No, not at all. But Spurs in the same boat in the way of a new stadium, a new era at Spurs, and you've been talking about League Cups and FA Cups and stuff like that, and you're not, Jamie. You're not going to come on here and talk about Spurs winning a title this year, but you are looking at the likes of FA Cups and saying that's a massive thing. Getting, and it doesn't have to be a league title to get over the line. It can be anything. Like I always go back to Jose Mourinho winning that League Cup, and he points to it in 2005. He points at it that it's massive for this Chelsea team in 2005 to go on and win a league and a league the following year. So, it's.
I've got a question for Jamie. If Tottenham win the FA Cup this year, do you want Conte to stay on for the next year?
Yes, it's going to be very difficult because I'd need to kind of know how we've done in the league in terms of how we managed to get into that top 4. I want Conte to stay. I do want Conte to stay. The only problem is I just feel as though the way everything has been this season in terms of not just Spurs not playing particularly well, I have a feeling that because of everything that's gone off the pitch in terms of, as I mentioned, with Conte having a very difficult season, I just feel as though he's not going to be here next year. And I know that Spurs are already looking for kind of new managers for next season as well, which kind of does suggest that Conte probably isn't going to commit to a new contract. But I think it's all going to be decided at the end of the season. I think that's going to be important to know how we've done in the league. Have we managed to get into that top 4? Because I do think that Conte is still the right man for Spurs. I think we've seen the last couple of games, that he can still get something very much out of this team. And I think it would be, look, this is why as well we'll want us to take advantage of Conte right now, because he's a guy who knows how to win. He knows how to win this competition. He won it with Chelsea in 2018. And, I don't think we're going to have too many better managers in knowing how to win this competition than Conte. So I want us to take full advantage. But yeah, I said it's a difficult question to ask. To answer right now because I wouldn't know how we do in the league. But
I think it all depends on Conte. Like Conte could literally get Spurs into the top 4, win an FA Cup, and then decide, I wanted player A, B, and C, and I didn't get them, so I'm out of here. Like that's just, and he's not a long term thing anyway. He's a bit like Mourinho. He does 2.5, 3 years, and then that's his lot because that's his cycle. His cycle is 2.5, 3 years, and then usually clubs have given him everything they can, and then can you go again? And the clubs don't really want to.
The only last thing I'd say about this is I do feel as though, I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, I do feel like Spurs are now, I think we've got maybe 8 players out of the 11 that are like, you could say, are definitely part of a Conte team. I think they've signed 2 very good young wing backs, Destiny Udogie from Udinese, who's going to come in. He's been doing fantastically well in Serie A. He looks like a really promising prospect. Obviously, Pedro Porro as well. Christian Romero in central defence. And then you've got Bentancur. And then, of course, you've got that fantastic front 3. So there's areas of that team that do need improving. But I feel like you've almost got a base there to kind of build off in the summer. And it's kind of building in the image of Conte at the moment. So, it's going to be so difficult to kind of call it at the moment. It's just almost impossible to kind of call will Conte be here next year. It's just going to depend how we finish the season.
Yeah. Red Steve says, question, Gav, given the City situation, is Jamie hoping Arsenal win the league? Just a yes or no?
You won't see my face again if Arsenal win the league.
Okay.
I'll be hiding forever. It'll be honestly the worst thing that can happen. So,
okay.
That might answer your question, Steve.
Yeah, I think it does. I have got questions here about Man City and stuff like that. I'm going to go into it now. If you have any other questions across the Premier League, absolutely throw them out there and we'll answer them. All right. Let me see. Oh, one more. Sorry, there's one more. Sas Coppoy asked this question. outside of the traditional big clubs and City in brackets, which Premier League player has impressed you most this season? So outside of
Blimey.
Liverpool, United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, City. It's a tough one.
The easy player is to say McAllister at Brighton, isn't it? Or Matoma. You could pick any of Brighton's players.
Yeah.
And pick them. Matoma looks unbelievable. It really does every week now. So he's getting that consistency level, which is fantastic. I'd say Matoma, McAllister.
That is a really good question. I think Ivan Toney's probably got to be up there. I mean, his goal scoring record this season's been phenomenal. I think he's on like 12 or 14, something like 12 or 14 goals. Really good. I think he's been, and Brentford are another. I think Brentford
he's about 4,000 gambling charges against him that'll come soon.
Well, yeah. that aside, I mean, he's had a fantastic season, and again, a massive reason why Brentford have been up there as well. But yeah, I think Matoma's probably got to be the one at the moment that's just been like unbelievable. So
who's been really underrated is Willian at Fulham. Like everyone wrote him off when he left Arsenal to go to Brazil.
Because the thing with Willian was like great at Chelsea, went to Arsenal and just did not look like he was bothered, and has come back and has a bit of a renaissance at Fulham. I think when I seen this question straight away, I thought Newcastle defenders. They've conceded 11 goals.
I was honestly just literally about to
say Botman.
I was literally about to say Botman.
The defence has been ridiculous. Your mate, formerly of Spurs, Trippier, has been brilliant for them. Yeah. And, even they've switched it around a couple of times at the back due to injury or whatever it might be, but they've conceded 11 goals in 20 Premier League games, which is unbelievable. And I know that's not the fancy one to pick because it's not a forward player, but when you look at teams like that, where do you want to start? You want to make sure they're not conceding a load of goals, and then you can go and express yourself. I think Guimaraes has been brilliant for them. There's been a lot of really good performances from Newcastle players.
Yeah, do you know what? That's really interesting you said that, because I was literally about to. I was kind of. I was thinking very hard about this one, but they've been fantastic. And Sven Botman, a left-sided central defender, I think he kind of almost typifies why Newcastle have been so good recently, because they've just, defensively been so good, and recruitment has been fantastic from them. Sven Botman was a guy who was linked with a number of big clubs when he was at Lille, obviously joined Newcastle, and they managed to get that deal done, and they've got themselves a really good left-sided defender. Left-sided defenders are obviously very difficult to kind of come about, and they've got a fantastic one there in Sven Botman.
Okay, right. I can't avoid this anymore because we only do about 30 to 40 minutes, and this could take up a bit of time. So it was actually the first question in of the night, but I kept it, and this is it. I'll come to you first, Liam. Sas Cowboy asks: Liverpool, Manchester United, Tottenham, all linked at some point in the last month or so with potential state investors. Any chance the club leaked these rumours to increase pressure on the Premier League to punish Manchester City? Do you think there's anything in that, Liam? I don't
know. I don't see what that would gain away from City. I think Tottenham are clearly looking for minority stake. Levy's mentioned that, and Joe Lewis, ENIC, they've said that before, and in talks with the Qataris. United and Liverpool have been very public. United's sale has gone back for 3 years now. It's only been public in the last probably 6 months, but they've been up for sale for 3 years. And Liverpool, I think, have either had minority investment or won a full sale investment, full sale, this season as well. So, no, I don't think it's got anything to do with City and punishing them. I just think let's get this out into the public to actually raise more awareness than we need to, because we haven't had any bidders. I think it's more that. And then you've seen it. United leaked it 3 months ago, and then Sir Jim Ratcliffe is involved now with a public bid, and then you've got the Americans, and you've got some Qataris, and you've got some other Middle Eastern sort of consortiums that are eyeing them up. So, I think that's my take on that.
Yeah.
Spurs and Man United. I think they're definitely. Well, I know from a Spurs perspective as well. ENIC have always kind of been for a number of years now been trying to sell the club. I think obviously it's got to a point now, Spurs, where I think it's worth a great deal of money. That club. You look at the stadium, the training facilities, obviously the location of the club. I think it's a big draw as well. So I think Spurs, they've always kind of been looking, for a number of years, been kind of looking to sell the club. Obviously, not been any buyers yet. I think that's partly because they probably value the club between 3.5 billion and 4 billion, which is, obviously understandable why that's putting buyers off at the moment. But I know from a Spurs perspective, at least, that they've been looking for a number of years now to sell the club.
On the Liverpool side of things, it was broken. The news broke, and I say that very loosely, in November, with regards to Liverpool being for sale, off the back of fairly shaky quotes, to be quite honest. The pressure has come on the owners because of performances this season. My take has always been the same on Liverpool. The owners where they are now, through some fault of their own, in fairness, not completely all their fault, but through some fault of their own, are struggling to compete financially. And there's two sides to that. One, they probably don't stretch themselves enough, but that's the model. And two, what you're up against, no matter how much you go up against these people, they'll find another way of getting more money than you. So you send yourself down a massive rabbit hole financially. There's really nothing on the Liverpool sale, but I wouldn't say that the potential state investors that's been out there for the last month or so has made the Premier League do this. But I would say they've kind of seen this coming probably 2 years out.
Of course.
Where apparently this is a 4-year investigation that's culminated in what you've seen yesterday, and we'll go into a little bit more in a minute. But there's no doubt the Premier League have probably looked and went, this is an investigation, this is an issue, and if we don't sort this issue or put something down with regards to this issue, we could genuinely have, for me, two of the biggest clubs in world football being in an ownership model that's similar to Man City, and then we're in real trouble because I think the Premier League probably, for me, just seeing it coming and went, we have to sort this, we have to get in here. They basically have to get to the bottom of this problem, and it's twofold. One, you get to the bottom of the problem, and two, you alert anybody else that feels like they can go down this route that you can't, and that might, and it protects their brand. Then it really protects their brand. Then if they're seen to and saves face a little bit, because remember, the Premier League are bringing these charges against City, but the Premier League govern this, so the Premier League is at fault for me as maybe the club itself. But I don't think it's escalated it so quickly. I think it's just a timing thing, and I think the Premier League probably seen it from a couple of years back, and if they're going to do an investigation, I'd rather they done it over 4 years than 2, and turned up with a 2-year investigation and went, oh listen, we just have a load of stuff here we think might happen. This seems fairly it's a fairly deep investigation by the looks of it. Liam,
Yep.
The news broke yesterday, right? I have a question from Emma from earlier, but I'm going to keep it for after both of you speak about this. What did you make of it? What was it where you went, Jesus, wow, they've done something? Or was it, we've seen this before, we've seen this game play out and nothing really happens? What was your take when you seen this news break yesterday?
Say either way at this stage, because they've charged him with allegations of breaching financial conduct, that are rules and regs in the Premier League, but so did UEFA. UEFA have gone down this road, and everyone's sort of saying, well, City got through the UEFA ruling. Well, yeah, but they've paid a hefty fine. It wasn't like they were innocent in their dealings with UEFA. They paid a massive fine to get off of it. So, and they were charged with that. The only difference that the Premier League have over UEFA is that the Premier League are not governed over a 5-year period. CAS, who are the Court of Arbitration for Sport, say that if you take something into our court, you've got 5 years to prove it or, settle it. The Premier League don't have that. So they've had a 4-year investigation. They've come out with these charges. They haven't got like another year and then it goes away. This can go on and on and on and on, and it will. City are going to hire, as you've seen today, most impressive lawyers out there and pay them incredible money to try and get them out of this with as little charge as possible. Whereas the Premier League want to actually make a stand here, I think. And that's why they've done it in such a public way. In the timing that City on the pitch, this could be coincidence or not, the City on the pitch are very weak. And I think they've tried to coincide that with a bit of a two-pronged attack. I'm not saying that's a conspiracy. I'm just saying that's probably the best time to try and do it. So, yeah, I think let's watch this space. I don't think any sort of resolution either way is going to come out of it very quickly. I think this will rumble on and on and on. People say, we'll take the titles away and hand them to the teams that came second place. I don't think that will happen either.
No, either do we.
An unclassified season and move on if that is the way that it goes. Or relegations. There are some really extreme sort of suggestions being made there. I think it'll be a hefty fine and probably a points deduction at most. But let's see. Maybe the Premier League have more to it than what we're seeing here.
I think we done a show on the Day Trippers last night on this for an hour and a half, so I'm not going to repeat everything I said on that show, but I don't know how you get 100 charges spread over 9 years, which means 9 years, and then if you're guilty of that, if you're found guilty, that you can benefit a further 5 years after that in titles and stuff like that, and sit down. Fine won't mean anything to them. And a 30-point deduction, they just have a really good season, finish on 50 points, and go, we're all clean again, great, and here we go again. And that just, when the words unprecedented and stuff is going around, if it's unprecedented and it's proven to be correct, you need something unprecedented to back it up with regards to a punishment. And for me, I don't know if they're... Listen, I'm not going to tell you I know they're guilty, right? I have strong feelings on Man City, and I have had for a decade. But I think the wording that's come out with regards to it, it means that if they are found guilty of it, I genuinely do see them in League Two. I genuinely do see that. And I probably see them where the owners are forced to sell the club because they're not fitting proper. And if this is proven true, they're not fitting proper. As simple as that. The sort of way.
Why League Two, though? Why does it stop at League Two?
I think
it's the Football League.
The EFL, I think they came out and said today, didn't they? The EFL are under no obligation to actually take Man City in.
No, they aren't. But you see, the EFL clubs would vote to get them back in for the simple reason is that if you put them into League Two, it means another club in League Two is going up. It's the easiest division to put them in. Dropping them into the Championship, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. The sort of way. But if you put them into League Two, it means a League Two club is going up, a League One club goes up, and a Championship club goes up. They all move up that roster. Them steps. One club from each division. And the second thing is, it's still Man City. It's still they'd be the biggest club in the Football League. Arguably, and they'll bring big crowds to League Two, League One, and extra money will come into the league. They all have to look at it like this. But I don't know. Like, I think it'd be massively detrimental to the Premier League if they are found guilty of this. And we're sitting here with Manchester City in the Premier League with a point deduction and a fine, which will mean nothing to them.
I mean, you spoke there also. We spoke there about how big Man City are for even League Two, but even for the Premier League. I mean, would the Premier League actually want to kick them out because that is such a big draw, Manchester City?
But it's not about wanting to. It's about showing, because Emmett says there, if the Premier League seen this coming over 2 years, surely they wouldn't have approved the buyout of Newcastle if that was their fear. But the Premier League can't turn around to the potential owners of Newcastle and say, oh, well, we have these people under investigation and we're going to judge you exactly the same as them. What I'm saying is that it's a different kettle of fish when it's Manchester United and Liverpool, I think, when that sort of ownership is being held. That's just my opinion. But it's not about what they want to do. It's what it's what they're going to be seen to have to do. And remember, the other stakeholders in this, the other 19 in the league are probably going, well, hold on. They're doing all this and we get a points deduction, so we can do whatever we really like and get a points deduction. Like, what if they find them 50 million quid, right? Clubs make 120 million quid every year for being in the Premier League. It just means you don't buy anybody. Just survive. 30 points deduction. Right, the big clubs, the massive clubs can go, Graham, we'll just put 70 points on the board. And it can be easily done. And next of all, it's all done with. and that I think is massively detrimental to the.
Even like a transfer ban as well. Like I think one of my Chelsea mates was just suggesting, well, look, the amount that we have spent, if we were to if we were down the road, we were to get hit with the transfer ban. Well, look, we've just got in all these players now. We've signed like 16 players over the last couple of years. We almost built a new team. What's the transfer ban to us if we go 18 months without having to make a transfer? We've signed all these unbelievable players that all for the future. So as well, I mean, even just hitting them with the transfer ban, they kind of look at it and think, "Oh, look, we can get away with that. We've got in the players to kind of get through that, however long it would be, 18 months, 2 years, whatever." So I think that's the other thing as well. Transfer ban, again, that doesn't do anything either. So yeah, it's interesting.
Red Steve says they can go into the championship if you do 4 up and 4 down, but the EFL will be guaranteed the draw of City for at least 3 seasons if they put them into League 2. But the problem with putting them into the championship, first of all, 4 down. What about the other 3? The other 3 are saying, well, hold on, we're going down because we're in the relegation spots, but you're putting them down. Why aren't they taking one of our spots to go down? All right, and then 4 go up, and the 5th place team in the championship are saying, but hold on, they'd have an issue with it. There's so many. The easiest way logistically is to put them into League 2, because each league benefits in some way where it's all pushed up the rung rather than down. And but like I said, you don't know what's going to come out of this. I think with regards to how quick it is, and Liam, you're probably right, there will be appeals and stuff like that. I'm sure Man City are able to appeal against an independent commission, and this could go on. But how long did the Premier League leave this to have this commission? Because, does a new season start in August? Do we let that season start and then the commission starts? And then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a season and it's like, what do we do at Man City? Do Man City get told, right, you're not in the league next year? Do they down tools? It's nearly fixing games then if they're not in the league. There is time constraints where it's probably sorted in the next 4 or 5 months, even before the transfer window opens again, or it has to go another year before you bring a decision to it, because I can't see a decision being made on it mid-season.
No. I think anything with lawyers involved takes ages, regardless of what it is, let alone a case this big. So I can't see it being done for the summer. And I think it'll be a 1.5 years minimum before any sort of charges are actually brought forward and punished.
Well, they've brought this out. There will be an independent commission, like you said. They've just said the number of charges. They've said what they're about. They haven't given any particulars or details. There was somebody else saying there as well that they heard on the BBC Football Daily that the EPL investigation can also use as evidence the football league info where CAS threw it out, so they can call on that evidence apparently, which is interesting. But I've heard City fans online on radio stations, podcasts and stuff across the day, just clips here and there, and I think they're hoping against hope really that this, because it's not like they're denying what City have done. It's more of a justification, like, oh well, I've heard one person say, like, well, FFP is just too stringent. And you're like, no, FFP is what it is. It's like going in and spending money you don't have, and then saying, well, you didn't give me enough to spend. It's a bit crazy, and I'd be more confident if I was a City fan if I seen City fans saying, no, we didn't do anything wrong. Our accounts are there and stuff like that, and it doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be that. Kev reckons it's about the next Man City, the one after. He doesn't reckon they're a big club; they're an artificially inflated club. But I know Liam will agree with that, and I do as well to a certain point. Just before we go though, Emmett did ask the question about punishments, right? And he says, "What, in your honest opinion, will be the punishment dished out to City? And why is the correct answer relegation to League 2? But Liam, you're sticking by. You can see a fine and a points deduction.
I think realistically, look, I think what's fair. You're probably right. League 2, it probably is fair. But realistically, with what the Premier League are doing, I still think they'll think in their minds that's a huge stand to take for our side. The fact that UEFA have tried it, failed it, got a fine, that was it. No banishing, nothing like that. But the Premier League is saying, okay, you get a massive fine, maybe a transfer ban, but also you get a huge points deduction and perhaps an asterisk and a push over those league titles.
Yeah.
but I can't see.
Yeah.
It's fair. I can't see how they get relegated to League Two. I just can't see that at this stage in time. Let's see what comes out, but for now, I think that's a push.
Yeah, I mean, the slightly different situation, but obviously it happened in Italy with Juventus as well, didn't they? They got kicked down to the second tier, so look, they showed that they're not scared to do it in Italy. And yeah, look, I mean, to have kind of done it over such a long period of time, I think the significant thing was, as you mentioned, was how many times they've been charged as well, or the number of allegations that have been made against them. I just think that was something that felt so significant yesterday. Over 100 charges or whatever it was. I just think that kind of just says it all, really. So yeah, I mean, look, I think Juve and being relegated to Serie B was obviously quite a significant thing, and I think the Premier League probably do need to do the same sort of thing with Manchester City if they are guilty of it, because to have done it over such a long period of time, to have done to have breached that so many times as well. So I think that's obviously very significant. So yeah, I can see maybe a similar thing happening as what we saw in Italy with Juventus.
Yeah, we were discussing on our show last night, and Kev, who's in the chat here, he was on the show last night, and he brought up the whole thing around Swindon, where they had financial irregularities going on a couple of years, and won a playoff game, and then were immediately thrown down 2 leagues because there was all sorts going on. Revenue got involved and all sorts of stuff in that one. You can look it up on YouTube, and then you can get the full story. But he was kind of not exactly likening it to that, but saying, listen, when financial irregularities go on over a period of time, this is what happened. Now, it's a long time ago, but it's still that sort of thing. And I don't know, like I can see the argument for a points deduction and a fine, because it probably makes it the smoothest path for everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, I don't know how much the Premier League wants to open itself up to this, because they govern this league. So as much as they're seen by a lot of people today or yesterday as being, fair play to the Premier League, they've put 4 years in and they've looked this up, it's all happened under them. It's all happened under them and their governance. So there's so much they'll open up, and then there'll be so much going, get too deep into this, and then we're really starting to look like we just can't run a division, and that's where I think it might be an issue. But for that amount of charges, and like I said, they're innocent until they're proven guilty. Kev says he expects a decision by the summer, and then the appeal to the FA soon after, because it's not a court, it's a tribunal. I don't know if they'll get. You see, if you look up the charges, they're very similar. It's all the same charges throughout the season, which add up to 100 charges. So if they're proven in one, the chances are in 2011, 12, or 12, 13, the chance are they might be proven. It might be proven throughout all those seasons that they're talking about, and then you might get off with this or off with that, whatever it might be. But it still will become. It is unprecedented, regardless if they're found guilty, because it hasn't happened in the Premier League. But I don't know. Like I can see the argument for anything, but I just think the way the Premier League have approached this, the way it's come out, the numbers involved, they're gonna have to make a serious statement, not only for themselves to show, yeah, it happened under our watch, but listen, we're treating it very, very severely. But every other club around it, basically saying to them, hold on, are we doing? Is this what we're doing? You've proven that this is wrong. It's and that's where the problem might come from. But I don't know whether you're getting a decision by the summer, but it's going to drag on. Then City will appeal. How long will an appeal take? Will it have to be heard again? Antio says City are going to lose Guardiola over this, which is a huge loss and punishment in itself. And he wants the Commonwealth Stadium taken away from them too, and make them play on their training ground. Right, it's getting a bit fucking much now. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Are we taking all their footballs off them as well? Like, you're not allowed to use footballs during the week, lads. It's going to be one where it's going to drag on. We're going to see it in media every day, aren't we? It's going to be Like, we've seen the angles already, who they're hiring, how much it's going to cost. They think there's a whistleblower. They think that, there's all sorts going on.
It'll be interesting to see kind of how it does affect the rest of their season, because I think there was a comment earlier in the show, wasn't there, about, is this going to motivate them to go on and win the title again? If they are going to maybe not have that opportunity for many years to come. But for me personally, when I kind of heard these allegations, I'm thinking, well, look, I think that's going to bring such a cloud around the club and such a negative atmosphere that I do worry that it will have as I said, a negative impact on their season just mentally. So yeah, it'll be obviously interesting to kind of see the fallout from this season. In the summer as well, are they going to, are players going to be looking at, maybe looking to leave the club as well with so much uncertainty? Again, it's it's very difficult to know what the situation is going to be in the summer in terms of this whole scenario. But yeah, I'm interested to see kind of how it does affect the rest of the season for them as well.
Yeah, and listen, Man City will know a hell of a lot more, obviously, about what's going on than me or anybody else, and that might reflect in a transfer window of the summer if the decision has been made by them. But then again, the best form of defense is attack sometimes, and they might go out and attack a transfer window, with unbridled, freedom, and sticking to their guns. But like I said, it's going to be a massive case. I don't know how long that tribunal will last, or that commission will last and hear the evidence and stuff like that. But on this channel, and lads and channel used to be on, and the channel I run and stuff like that, when stuff comes up, we'll get on and we'll talk about it and stuff like that. We're gonna leave it there. I think that's about 45 minutes. That flew in. It flies in when you have questions, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It absolutely flies in when you have questions. Anything else before we go? Would either of you like to ask questions before you go, Liam?
Say again, mate. Sorry.
Would you like to ask any questions before we leave, or would you like to run?
When are Liverpool going to turn up for a game? That's what I want to know.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you say that, because as everything's going on today, a tweet came out from Liverpool Football Club to say that the Premier League game against Wolves has been rearranged for this date. And I was like, fucking hell. I'm sick looking at Wolves and I'm sick looking at Brighton. Can we just play somebody else?
That does feel like you've played like Wolves.
Literally, there's Liverpool fans on Twitter going, why are we playing Wolves and Brighton every week all season?
Yeah.
No, you see, we played Wolves in the Cup and a replay, and the league, and we played Wolves 3 times in the last 4 weeks, I think, and then this Wolves game later on the season is being rearranged to some Tuesday or Wednesday night or something. When will they turn up? I don't know. Monday night against Everton, hopefully. I think when you look at these games, when you're struggling and you need a big game to jolt you. You would have seen it as a sports fan or a United fan where there's a struggle, but you get a North London derby win or you get a Manchester derby win, it's kind of bang, you needed that. Just a muscle memory to come back. Liverpool need that. And I'm looking forward to Monday night because I hope that's where it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then there's the devil on your shoulder then going, yeah, well, it's the Merseyside derby, and how shit have Liverpool been? If they lose this is just doldrum stuff, you know what I mean? So when will they turn up? I'm hoping Monday, but we were talking off air before we come on, Liam, and the way I look at it is, it's the first time probably in 7 years Liverpool have let me down in the season. Yeah. And law of averages tells you your team will let you down once in near on a decade. So you just have to suck it up. You have to take it. You have to look forward. You have to hope for different things, whether that's on players or ownership or whatever it might be. And you always go into August, don't you? Optimistic. Like I went into August, every August thinking Liverpool were going to win a title, and it didn't. For the vast majority of them, they didn't. So that's Liverpool. That's all we'll talk about Liverpool this week, if that's okay. Anything else from you, Jamie, before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Liam obviously asked the question about Liverpool. It'd be very interesting to kind of see how that game gets on. Is that game? Is that at Anfield? Or
it's on Anfield Monday night.
Ooh, yeah, that's got to change it surely. I think at Goodison Park, after a result like they had on the weekend, that was going to make for it. That would have been a difficult game, but I think you probably bounce back from that one. But yeah, I don't think no questions from me. I think just very interested to see how that game goes.
Yeah, so am I. We'll be back here next week, and we might do more of this. We might do more of this where we'll talk about what's happening with our clubs. We'll talk about other stuff in the Premier League as well, and we might get as many questions as we can. Look, thanks a million to Liam, thanks a million to Jamie. Go and check them out. They're on Twitter. You can see their Twitter handles right there in front of you if you want to go and follow them for Spurs and United. And as you've seen, very level-headed talk. They're honest. So they're good follows on the likes of Twitter and stuff like that. If you've watched and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit the like button. Please do that as well. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Talk to you in a bit.